Hello, I'm Dave Mcallister, the Executive Director of Laraway Youth and Family Services, Lamoille South Unified Union School Board member, and a member of the Healthy Lamoille Valley steering team. Today, I am here with Alison Link, Policy and Community Outreach Coordinator with Healthy Lamoille Valley. Healthy Lamoille Valley has been following Act 164 very closely, as prevention of youth cannabis use is a priority for us. While we will not tell you how to vote, we do believe that all voters should be informed on all issues when going to the polls. Municipalities and residents have been given a great responsibility to the public health policy. Policy affects everyone in our community, regardless of individual opinions and viewpoints, and can have long and lasting implications for our community. The decision should not be taken lightly. Alison recently hosted an Act 164 roundtable with local town leaders. It was shared that many residents in our communities do not know much about 164 retail cannabis. So I will be taking a few minutes to ask Alison some common questions that we are hearing. Good morning, Alison. Can you tell us what is 1 Act 64?
Act 164 was enacted in October 2020 by our legislature as our retail cannabis market in Vermont, and so tax and regulate system for adult use cannabis.
So my understanding is towns get to vote for retail and integrated license,
Yes.
But are not required to.
True.
So what is an integrated license?
Great. So, well, just to back up, so to have a retail cannabis license means having a storefront and being able to sell a product. Integrated licenses are different because most of the licenses for retail cannabis are regulated by the state. So that means manufacturing, testing, wholesale, the growing, all of those other licenses are from the state. Integrated licenses include all of those licenses that the state is going to control. But the local part is that it also includes the retail piece. So integrated licenses can include all of the licenses, including the retail license. So therefore, towns can choose to opt in or not opt in if it's up to a ballot vote.
All of the other components of cannabis have already been controlled by the state. The manufacturing, the growing,
Correct. Or they will be controlled by the state.
Sorry, yes, they will be.
Yeah.
So as a town, really, we're making the decision whether or not we allow for retail sale in our community.
Correct. Because an entity with an integrated license will have the opportunity to have a retail establishment.
That makes sense. Thank you. So what is the Cannabis Control Board and what is the timeline on this?
Great. The Cannabis Control Board was put into effect as an independent commission through the executive branch to actually do the regulations and all taxation and all different components related to Act 164. So that body is still meeting. They do all the rulemaking. The main thing to know about the Cannabis Control Board, they meet on Fridays. You can go to their website. They have lots of subcommittees, but all of the rulemaking is not done. So anyone who votes prior to all of that rulemaking being completed and even the pieces recommended to the legislature to vote on, that is not complete yet. So we need to keep an eye on what the Cannabis Control Board is recommending to the legislature and what they're putting forward. March 1st is when the Cannabis Control Board is supposed to be putting forth much of that rulemaking and recommendations. No licenses can be given currently. The first integrated licenses can be issued starting May 2022 and the first retail licenses October 2022.
So once a town votes to opt into the cannabis market, can they later vote to opt out?
They can, and vice versa. So if a town initially votes not to opt in based on numbers of votes, then they at a later date can hold another vote and another vote and another vote. Like this is not limited as far as we know. I'm not a lawyer, sure. But we're following this closely and have a lot of experts who have been supporting us and building knowledge around this. The one thing to really know about this is that if a town opts in and grants a license, at a later date, if the town opts out, that entity that has a license can stay in the town. It's a legacy clause and it can stay. So there's no way at that point to say we don't want this establishment here anymore. Their license will not be revoked.
And so if I understand you correctly then, Alison, there really isn't any particular urgency around having to make this decision immediately, right? Because towns theoretically, based on the information we have, can choose to hold a vote at any time to opt in or opt out to the retail and integrated license.
Correct, and there's a lot to learn right now, there really is no pressure, because even somebody, let's say, who is thinking about being a license holder, they don't know all the rules. CCB is just coming out with some of the rules around buffer zones around places. So to be thinking about licensing now prior to any vote in a town really is premature.
So can you talk a little bit about Lamoille Valley communities and how they might benefit from increases to local sales tax?
Currently, they will not benefit from local municipal sales tax. All of our towns in the Lamoille Valley do not have a local option sales tax, and that is the only way that currently any towns will receive municipal tax revenue.
Okay, thank you. So you mentioned a little bit about buffer zones, and so can you talk a little bit about, can towns create their own policies or expand potentially on the CCB?
Towns absolutely can, and so that's really encouraged to develop a research committee, survey folks in your community, really know what is what's possible, what resonates with folks. And there's a whole range of topics from zoning, if a town has zoning, to ordinances, to smoke-free areas, to buffer zones, site review plans. There are so many different ways that towns can weigh in on what it looks like. Even outlet density, like only wanting one establishment per block or per area, or some of our small towns, there's one store in the whole town. So just really thinking it through of what it's like, because we know the more advertising or the more places where a young person can access a substance, the more likely they'll become dependent later in life. So, all these things can impact our youth and young people, but also our communities as a whole.
What other local systems or services might be impacted if a town opts into cannabis retail?
There's so many services that we can think about law enforcement, some of the obvious ones, health, mental health, youth serving organizations, but then we can also think about energy systems, wastewater management, electricity. There are so many ways. Another aspect also could be tourism and other places of the indirect revenue, a grand list. We want to think about all the different ways, and we want to bring it to the table with all different stakeholders and have communities really weigh in and people be educated about the topics and to find out from their community how they think it's going to impact and what do we already know is already happening in our communities.
Sounds like another adverse benefit to that research committee at the local town level. So you mentioned our youth a little bit, Alison. Could you talk about, what is the impact or potential impact on our youth?
So just a little data to put out there. Vermont youth ages 12 to 17 have the highest rate in the country of use of cannabis within the past month. The top, that's based on 2018 data, the last time that we had that data. Then you get to 2019 data of our Youth Risk Behavior Survey, and our local Lamoille County youth are using more than the state average. At our high school students, up to 28%, and that is based on 2019 data. That's pre-pandemic, that we know substance use and misuse has increased, we know mental health concerns have increased. The current data, right now we don't have, but I think that knowing all of the impacts of youth, knowing that people in Colorado and all of our colleagues out there, they've even changed and advocated for changing the labeling on cannabis products to the evidence-based data that shows how it's impact people and youth, ranging from impaired driving to psychosis, even if they know previous mental health conditions, harming themselves, so many different pieces that are really related to our youth. We want to make sure that we're protecting our youth and that with any rollout of the retail cannabis market here, that we're considering the youth prevention lens along the way, and that means being informed voters about what it's all about.
Right. I know there's a lot of research out there about the impacts of cannabis on a developing brain.
Correct.
And we talk about our youth extending up to 26 years old. Our brains are still growing and developing. So, Alison, thank you. Could you maybe just tell us a little bit, if people want to learn more, if they want to get involved with the different initiatives that Healthy Lamoille Valley has to offer?
Yes, so we have a lot of information on our website at healthylamoillevalley.org. We have a page specific to retail cannabis information. Also, if you're a municipal leader, there's more information there for you. We're happy to help facilitate, offer information with any way that we can support you. If there's a data point you're looking for, if there's convening people you'd like to know more, we're here to support our local municipalities and encourage everyone to get involved. There'll be some other opportunities coming forward that you may see of informational sessions, and we'll take all of the input from the community for what we create as resources to help folks get informed.
Great. Alison, I want to thank you again for your insights and expertise this morning on Act 164, and I want to thank all of you for taking the time to view this video and become a more informed voter.